Hello and welcome to Anime Memories, and on this episode, I'm going to be talking about Spriggan. I first remember seeing this when I was around 14 or 15 years old, and like with many of the anime I watched back then, it was both highly enjoyable and extremely confusing. The next time I came across it was about a year and a half ago when Bennett the Sage did a review on it. His opinion on the movie was that the visuals were great, but that didn't make up for the horribly told story. So I went into this knowing that this wasn't going to be some kind of hidden gem from my childhood. It was going to be flawed. But even if an anime has a lot of problems, it can still be entertaining. I have quite a few guilty pleasures that I like, despite them having a laundry list of issues, so I was hoping this was going to become another guilty pleasure of mine. So, let's get into it. The first thing we see is a group of archaeologists who find this massive statue-like object that has an insane amount of power. Then there's something about this alien technological plate thingy, and apparently these warriors called Spriggan are charged with sealing away that technology. Then the protagonist Yu sees one of his classmates getting killed, and somehow Noah's Ark is involved. The story's a mess. There's no real good way for me to explain it because the film itself doesn't do a good job of explaining it. There are multiple exposition dumps that contain way too much information to absorb in just a few minutes, and even with the amount of stuff they include, it still feels like they're skipping over a ton of important details. After the second or third dialogue-heavy scene, I stopped caring. It's not a good sign if I give up on the plot by the 20-minute mark. To quickly finish things off, Yu goes to this archaeological site to find out what's going on, and he gets caught up in a fight for this piece of alien technology. Now, I recently finished reviewing Angel Beats, and the main criticism I gave there was that the story was rushed, especially in the last few episodes. Well, Spriggan is way worse. At least with Angel Beats you had the first few episodes which were decently paced, but here, it only takes 4 minutes for the movie to completely shoot itself in the foot, because this is where the first of those exposition dumps happens.
From an unknown civilization that rose before the dawn of time and vanished into the distant reaches of eternity.
The narrator is speaking so dramatically that it comes off as corny, and the writing is really unnatural. It sounds like they wanted to use a bunch of big words to make the film look intelligent, and the result is this nonsensical rambling. Then they introduce Noah's Ark and Christian philosophy. Again, they try to include complex topics to make the film seem smart, and it just screws everything up even further. Then towards the end it goes into alternate dimensions and the destruction of the time-space. You know, I'm actually kind of glad that I gave up on the plot early, because if I had have tried to understand this, I would have gotten a massive headache. A big part of the problem here is that this is based on an 11-volume manga, and with how horrible the pacing is, I'm guessing they tried to fit the entire story into 90 minutes. So maybe in the manga the plot actually worked and was genuinely clever, but even if that's the case, it doesn't translate over to the movie. Now, the story isn't the only casualty of the rushed pacing, because it also takes a heavy toll on the characters. With how little time they get, many of them don't get more than one personality trait. Actually, there are quite a few background characters that don't even get that. They're just kind of there. The cast may have been likeable if they were developed at all, but they usually only get 1 or 2 sentences before the anime moves on to yet another confusing plot point. I didn't feel anything for these people because the film didn't give me a chance to feel anything for them. They do give you a backstory right at the end, however, it's too little too late. Placing it in the last 15 minutes makes it seem more tacked on than anything else. The story and characters have almost no redeeming value, so that just leaves the technical aspects, and like Bennett said, the visuals don't make up for all the issues. There's just way too many. But I still have to commend the animators on their effort here, because it looks amazing. It has the kind of aesthetic that you'd only find from a high-budget anime movie from the late 90s. The artwork has an incredible amount of detail, and there's some awesome science fiction imagery. I also love the character designs. It was great to see characters that look like real Japanese people, rather than the doughy-eyed dolls that you'd find in most modern anime. I especially like the design of the villains. You've got this hulking brute who carries around a minigun, and then there's this little golem-like dude who jumps around all over the place and kills people with wires. They're unique and intimidating. There's even a psychotic 8-year-old that looks really scary. Then we have the animation, which is even more outstanding than the art. The characters are basically superhuman, so during the battles there's a ton of movement, and all of it's fluid. This leads me to the best part of the film, the action. It's very exciting, it's brutally violent, and it's also pretty creative. They use a variety of weapons, there's a ton of different settings for the various fights, and they even make use of vehicles occasionally. There's a surprising amount of diversity here, it's not just a series of gunfights. With how dull the dialogue is, there weren't many times where I was having fun watching this. The only points where I was feeling any kind of amusement was during the action scenes, and while it doesn't save it from being a bad film, it certainly keeps it from being a complete train wreck. Luckily, the visuals aren't the only area of merit, since the soundtrack's pretty solid. It enhances the battles and makes them even more exciting. One piece of music that I think deserves special mention happens during the scene where Yu is driving through the mountains, and it adds a ton of atmosphere. It's mysterious and it makes you feel like you're in a foreign country, as it has a ton of cultural flair. Although the biggest enhancement to the action comes from the excellent sound effects. The guns sound very powerful, and when the characters are punching and stabbing each other, you hear their bones cracking and their flesh being torn apart. It complements the violence extremely well. It's clear that a lot of talented people worked on this. The animators and the audio engineers put in some exceptional work. And all of that is ruined by the crappy writing. I think it's safe to say that Spriggan did not become one of my guilty pleasures. After this video is over, I don't even see myself watching it again. The only way I would recommend this is, if you're a massive fan of action anime, you may enjoy this for the well-animated battles alone, but for everyone else, don't bother. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, please subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.